All right, welcome back, everybody. Another episode of the Niner Family Huddle podcast. Today we're talking maybe a little bit of the Super Bowl. No one cares about the stupid Eagles, though. We're going to talk about the Niners getting back to Super Bowl contention because that's what matters. Rumors around the Niners, Debo wants a trade, and more after this. All right. Everyone's favorite Philadelphia Eagles are national champions, not world champions. Tired of people saying that. They won the Super Bowl and no other teams compete around the world. So, what do you guys think of the game? Super Bowl, the halftime show, the commercials. Did you enjoy it, or were you as bored as I was?
It was a snooze fest. I was hosting a Super Bowl. What did it say?
Garbage.
Yeah, it was
terrible.
boring. I mean, there wasn't even a lot to watch out there. I mean, I don't even have much of a takeaway. I watched about 60% of the game. There's a lot of the game where I was just like putting food away, getting food out, doing this, doing that, because I hosted a Super Bowl party.
That happens when you host a Super Bowl party. You don't get to watch a lot of it.
Yeah. But I watched about 60% of it, and I ran in there if I heard people screaming. It seemed like it was exciting in the beginning before the Eagles had completely ran away with it. And then it was just like, can the Chiefs come back? Like, wow, Patrick Mahomes is so amazing. How amazing would it be if he came back? And then it just became more and more out of reach. And then at some point, it's just like, mercy. I don't know what the heck happened because I thought the Chiefs were such a good team, and I really expected them to win, and they just looked terrible. I don't know if it was game planning or what it was. Honestly, I don't really care. I'm kind of happy to see the Chiefs get embarrassed because I don't like them at all. I also don't like the Eagles. So obviously them being on the positive end of that is annoying, and their fans are going to be even more emboldened than they already are and obnoxious. And outside of that, I just didn't care one bit. I'm ready to get into draft season, ready to get the Niners back to contention, and just it was a snooze fest.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I know we all talked about like our picks or whatever last time and who we wanted to win and everything. And like, I didn't, like the most that I can remember in my adult life, I could care less about the Super Bowl. And I'm sure that says as much about me as it does about the matchup. Like, I'm not putting it all on them, but like, it just felt like, I mean, I thought it was inevitable that the Chiefs were going to win, so at least there was a surprise. But I did not want the Eagles to win. You guys know that. I think I made that clear last time. And I had no investment really either way. Like, of course, I want the Niners to be the first team that has a Super Bowl three-peat. Not a championship three-peat because that's already happened, but a Super Bowl three-peat. Like, of course I want that, but I didn't even care that much about that. You know, like if the Chiefs got it, whatever, who cares? You know, like it's kind of sad that I felt that way. And I mean, the line that I kept using all week when people would ask me, "Are you getting excited for the Super Bowl?" I was like, man, not really. It's like, well, who do you want to win? I was like, honestly, I wish they could tie. Like, I wish there was a way that could happen. I know it won't, but like, I just, it just seemed like blah. Like, who cares about these two teams? Now, I know people in Philadelphia, people in Kansas City, like, oh my God, Chiefs are going for history. Like, I'm sure it was super compelling in other parts of the country. I get it. But yeah, I was not looking forward to it. I really didn't care about it. And I watched less than half of it because my oldest, Maddie, had a volleyball tournament yesterday. And I was the one who took her to it. And so we were on our way home, and I was like, oh, that's right, the Super Bowl already started. And what I called Candace to do was I asked her, hey, can you make sure you record the halftime show? Like, that's what I wanted to see. And I was like, I pulled out my phone, I looked up, I was like, oh shoot, it's a minute and a half to halftime. I want to see that. And then secondarily, I was like, oh, wow, the Eagles are up big. What the heck's going on? So it was like, I just, could not have cared about the game or the teams really any less. And it's like, yeah, Eagles, go celebrate, tear up your own city, Eagles fans,
Seriously.
by having a party that you're going to have about how great your team is. And it's like, whatever. Like, I don't like really, it doesn't even register for me. Like, you're not that great of an all-time team. I mean, I was thinking about it. You were saying takeaways, results. Like, is Sirianni already the worst coach to ever win a Super Bowl? I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's other bad ones, but I was trying to think through like the list all time of coaches that won a Super Bowl. It's like, congratulations, Nick, you just won, and celebrate, and you are at least bottom 3, bottom 5. Anyways, yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm a hater. I'm hating right now, but I just didn't care.
Play devil's advocate, Ryan. What were the exciting parts?
Oh, there were none. Sorry. Yeah, I can't. I do like to try to approach things from a different perspective if I can, but that game sucked, and I was disinterested in it as well. I don't want to. I can play a little bit of devil's advocate for Nick Sirianni, even though I agree that he sucks. But he has been to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. He's only been the coach for 4 years. He's made the playoffs every year, and I saw that he has the 5th highest winning percentage of any coach in history, with a certain amount of games qualifying. But that being said, like, no one knows what he does. He doesn't call plays. He just calls timeouts. He yells at fans and he yells at his players, and he yells at the refs. But like, I don't know what he does. But because it seems to me that Howie Roseman, the GM, gets all the credit for building a really good team. So whatever. Congrats, Eagles. No one cares. The biggest takeaway I had from the game was just that how important offensive and defensive line is. And the Niners kind of have a different approach. They love to funnel resources into the D line, but they've said publicly like they can get guys later for O line and just kind of patchwork the O line, and they like to spend the resources on guys who score touchdowns. So I think it's time to rethink that strategy a little bit and pour some resources into the O line and D line.
Yeah.
That graphic that they put up about the Eagles' average offensive lineman's size, like they average 6'5", 330. It's
Jesus.
like just a massive, massive line. And I'd be willing to bet that the Niners are at the other end of that scale.
Yeah.
They probably have one of the smaller O-lines because they like the smaller, more agile guys.
6'1",
and they just
290.
get pushed around. That's why Chris Jones dominates the Niners, because he shoves all their little O-linemen around. And, they play the Eagles yesterday and don't even hear Chris Jones' name because he's the one getting shoved around.
Yeah.
Completely agreed. How many Super Bowl wins do the Eagles have all time? So like 3, 2?
2?
Really? So their 2 are the recent ones.
Maybe. No, the only other time that they said something about how since has Roseman been around since like 2? No, it was the ownership. It was since the ownership took over, the Eagles have been to 4 Super Bowls in 19 years or something like that. And they've lost 2, and then if like yesterday was the second one that they won. And I was thinking back, I don't believe the Eagles. The only other time I know of that the Eagles went to the Super Bowl was I think like 1980, and the Raiders beat them. That's the only other one that I can think of where the Eagles were even in it, because I think it was a big
Andy
deal.
Reid went with McNabb,
but he lost. He didn't win.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah. So that was the first of the 4 since the new ownership took over. And I'm pretty sure when they won that year with Nick Foles, that was like the big thing.
It was their first win.
Their first one, and like they'd won NFL championships that predated the Super Bowl, but it was like their first Super Bowl, and I think their first championship since like the 1950s or 1940s or something. Like, it was a long time ago. I don't really remember, obviously. By the way, Doug Peterson also in contention for worst coach to win a Super Bowl, I think. But
yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, I hear you guys on the O-line, D-line thing. Like, I mean, I feel like that's the easiest thing to do to have a good team is to invest in that. But I think that I feel like always you have a fad. And I'm not saying that a good O line or a good D line is a fad, so don't misunderstand that. But like, there's going to be a bunch of teams that, well, look what the Eagles did.
Mm-hmm.
They got all these big dudes that are super athletic and whatever. It's like, yeah, this was special that they were like the circumstances that came together and how they did this. Now, I know that they like invested and they made it a point to do this, but they should have never had Jalen Carter where they got to draft him. And it's like they have lucked into some of this and they have also made it a priority. So good for them, and it worked out. Their plan worked out. But there's also been teams that have done it different ways, and it just kind of, whatever the era is, however it works. I'm not saying that I want the Niners to have a small offensive line. It was very satisfying in the Harbaugh era to line up the big goons that we had and just absolutely annihilate everybody. So I love that. But you got to do what makes sense for your team. And if you need to have guys that can pull and run and you're going to be asking a lot more of them, yeah, it might suck when it's 3rd and 2, and you really got to get that yard that you don't have just the big maulers in there to do it. But it'll be pretty nice when it's 1st and 10 and you hit a play, that goes for 30 because you have the linemen that are capable of it. It's always going to be situational,
Mm-hmm.
is the point that I'm trying to make, and things are going to be changing. So who knows? I mean, yeah, there's probably gonna be a lot of teams that are going to try to emulate what the Eagles did, and good luck, because I think that they kind of hit some, picks and signings that other teams aren't going to hit. It was like the perfect circumstances that came together for him.
Yeah, hopefully a few teams in the top 10 reach on a couple O linemen or something, and the defensive tackle from Michigan, Mason Graham.
Yeah,
Hopefully the next Justin Smith, falls to the Niners at 11. That would be awesome. I thought the commercials sucked. I think they've sucked for years. They're not funny anymore. They're not engaging. I'm seeing the same commercials played over and over too. So I'm like, are they paying for multiple spots, or are they just are people they can't afford commercials anymore, so they're just feeding them the same ones over? I don't know. The halftime show I thought was pretty good. I like Kendrick Lamar, and I thought he had a pretty good show. I thought it was funny how much he kind of hyped up Not Like Us. They kind of teased
Teased
it
it.
earlier and then came back to it. And I don't really know all the details of the beef between him and Drake. And they had Serena Williams out there crip walking, which apparently was a big deal. Like, I don't follow this stuff anymore. When Eminem and 50 Cent were beefing with people all the time, that to me was like, I actually paid attention to that stuff. I just don't do it anymore. But I still thought the halftime show was good, and it was really the only redeeming quality of the entire Super Bowl experience, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's funny what you said, Steven, because I was like upstairs doing something and Sarah came and got me and she's like, the second quarter's about to be over. You better get down here. You're going to miss Kendrick. And I like didn't even care what was going on in the game, but I like ran downstairs to make sure I didn't miss that show. That was probably my redeeming. Like, I agree. That was the redeeming quality of the
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl as well.
So my experience of like the actual football that I watched, like the game was out of hand by the time that I got home and turned it on and like sat down to watch it, I I am pretty sure it was 31-0 or something like that. And like then the Chiefs finally scored. So it just felt it like it was not compelling at all. The outcome was already decided. It seemed like the Chiefs were just struggling. What was crazy was not having seen the entire first half and the beginning of the third quarter, Tom Brady kept saying what a great job the Chiefs were doing against Saquon. And I didn't see Saquon get loose or anything, but I was like,
No.
so did they just pour all of their energy into stopping Saquon and everybody else had a big game? Because
Pretty much.
you're down 30, but you're getting props for shutting down Saquon. And it's like, that something's not right here. The most impressive play that I saw was the last touchdown that Mahomes threw to Worthy. I was like, holy
Yeah.
damn, that was an amazing throw, and good on Worthy to keep that concentration. And if they can continue to unlock that guy doing that stuff with Mahomes' arm, like look the heck out, everybody else, because that was scary good. That one play. Now maybe that's all he's got in him, and he's going to hit 3 or 4 of them over the course of an entire season. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, damn, that was a perfect throw, and that was amazing concentration on his part.
Yeah, that was a really. I mean, of course, Mahomes makes that throw. That was a perfect throw, and Worthy's pretty good. He's more than just like a deep threat guy. But yeah, Saquon, I think he ran the ball for like 23 times, 2.3 yards a carry with a long of 10. Like the Chiefs were really bottling him up, but Jalen was making throws all over the place. And when they were covering guys up, he was running at the right time. Jalen really had a really he wasn't even in the last Super Bowl that they lost, Jalen had a great game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think he was nearly as good in this game, but he was just really efficient. And the Chiefs just, A.J. Brown had a good game. Devontae Smith had a good game. Goddard had some big plays. So they stopped Saquon, but they didn't stop anybody else, unfortunately. So, yeah. So if you turn it on to 31-0, Jalen did have a really nice throw to Devontae Smith for a touchdown. It was like the Chiefs got the ball to start the second half. They went for it on 4th down, didn't get it, and Jalen hit him on a deep touchdown on the very next play. And I was at my buddy Ryan's house watching the game, and I was like, all right, well, I've seen enough. I'm heading home.
I think that was about when I turned it on, because I'm pretty sure I saw that play. And you're right, it was a great throw that he made, but Mahomes' throw was better.
Oh yeah, no question. It was deeper and further. Yeah, faster player too. That was a beauty, but unfortunately, it was way too little, way too late. All right, whatever. Eagles fans, congrats, I guess, whatever. Moving on. This is a 49ers show. Let's see. Let's talk about Debo. He officially requested a trade. And so apparently this is kind of how I understand it. The Niners came out and said, like, we are shopping Debo Samuel. We've granted his manager permission to seek a trade. And then, like, an hour or two later, Adam Schefter has a quote from Debo, and he's like, well, it's time for me to move on, and I had a talk with Kyle at the exit meetings, and I told him that I want to trade. So already it's like, are we doing the he said, she said thing here? Like, what is going on here? So do you guys think it's like totally official for sure Debo's going to get traded? Do you think it's possible nobody wants him and they have to just cut him? And if they do trade him, what do you think he's worth?
I just want to say, I saw some Bleacher Report proposed trade articles of proposed trades. They were the most insane things I've ever seen. Like,
I know. I've seen like Debo want a pick for Myles Garrett. I'm like,
yeah, like
stop,
people
dude.
don't know.
Sign me up.
Yeah. People don't realize that Debo's not good anymore. Or
I know.
I don't know.
I've seen that on social media. Like, I can't believe the Niners would trade Debo. I'm like, dude,
like,
does your team want him? Send a brand new bag of footballs and he's yours.
Yeah, it's crazy. I saw one that was like Debo for Joey Bosa, but the Chargers would have to throw in a 5th rounder too. I'm like, what? That's the most insane thing I've ever read. It's funny because I saw that pop up on my phone and I just didn't even care. It was like the most meh, like just like the most nonchalant news that I've ever received. It's like Debo wants a trade. Okay, good. So do I. So does I think everyone else. So I think the 49ers want to trade him too. So it's like, glad we're all on the same page there. Now let's get it done. What will we get in return? Probably like a 5th rounder, maybe. If there's a little tiny bidding war, maybe a 4th or 5th rounder. But I could definitely see a scenario in which we just have to cut him. And honestly, I won't even be that bummed. Like, I'll just be like, okay, glad we can move on from that headache. And unfortunately, he has become a headache. So yeah, it's more good news than anything, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't the Niners get a 4th rounder for Trey Lance?
I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, they're going to trade Debo and get less than they got for Trey Lance.
I mean, I know he's younger and he's a quarterback and whatever, upside, all that. But, Um,
But yeah, they did get a 4th-round pick for him.
yeah, I kind of hate all this stuff flying around about like it's almost getting my hopes up that like somebody might overpay and take him.
I doubt it.
Because it's like just shut up and let something happen because now you're making me think like if he could be included in a package that lands Miles Garrett and is viewed as like a positive in that package, like the Browns are like, man, we're losing Miles. We're only getting a few picks and they're decent picks, but hey, we're getting Debo, former All Pro Debo. It's like, yes, Browns,
Debo and
you
Jerry
are.
Jeudy.
Yeah,
Hell of a dynamic.
let's go. You're right, Browns. Take that. You should really take that. I mean, it's just crazy to me because I kind of thought that the Niners might end up cutting Debo because I didn't really think they would get enough in return.
I still think they might have to.
And
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that they're going to find a trade partner.
yeah, and I wonder, like you said about the he said, she said thing. So this news coming out, you never know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, maybe they got word that Debo was going to go public because he was getting, um, antsy that he wasn't getting what he was expecting. So maybe the Niners are trying to control the narrative and make it clear that like Debo asked for this or whatever. Who freaking knows? But it doesn't really do the Niners any favors, I don't think, by making it public because then it becomes a known fact that there's discontent. Either like they're talking about breaking up, so then teams are like, well, things aren't going well. I can just wait it
We'll
out
just
until
wait
he
till you
gets
cut him.
cut. Yeah, and then it doesn't cost me anything. So I don't know if there's a way that they can get like a decent player. Awesome. I didn't expect that. I've been like trying to wrap around my brain. I really want Miles Garrett. I know everybody does, but I mean, I was talking about it before we even knew Miles Garrett wanted to trade, right? I was coming up with creative solutions to try to get him that may not have been good, but still trying to figure out a way to get him on the Niners. Um, I feel like now it's not going to happen. Like I'm just telling myself they're not going to get him. He's going to end up somewhere else. It's just not going to work out. And it's just too bad because I think other teams are going to bid more. I think they're going to be willing to give up more than the Niners are. And it just, like I've been trying to like justify maybe he is worth pick 11. Maybe the Niners do need to give up pick 11 so they could get Myles Garrett. I don't want to. I want to be greedy, keep pick 11 and somehow get Myles Garrett. And so like if Debo could somehow be the answer to that, awesome. But I don't think he is. I don't feel like it helps because of his contract, if nothing else. Like I don't
And it makes no sense for the Browns. They want to rebuild. They don't need an aging, washed receiver.
Right. So like the teams that might be interested would be teams that are like close to contention and think that they're going to add another dynamic. Like one that I think would be an interesting fit was the Ravens. I saw somebody talk about how he could be cool with the Ravens because they have that rushing attack and like you get another like dynamic player that you're putting with Lamar and Derrick Henry. Like, yeah,
I've said that I think the Bills would be a decent little fit too.
They could be. I don't think Debo's going to be catching those Josh Allen howitzers coming in. Like he's
He'll be bobbling those like crazy.
but they could be. I mean, I think it makes more sense for a team that is close to contention that they think that he might be able to offer something that can put him over the top. I don't think it makes sense for a team that's like, we want to get him in here to sell some jerseys or generate some buzz or whatever.
Jaguars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know what he's worth. I tend to agree with Chase, and I think at best they can get a bidding war going and get a 4th-round pick. I'd be blown away if they got a 3rd. They'd probably have to trade like Debo in his 6th for a 3rd-round pick or something. So you just essentially just move up in the draft a couple spots. But
that'd be sick. I'd be stoked.
Yeah, I mean, I would take that. But I have a hard time seeing it because like the games are all on TV, and we all watch Debo, and he's not the same player. and he blamed it on his targets, but I saw someone say that he had 89 targets in 2023 and he had 81 in 2024. So he got the same workload he's always gotten. He's just not that same player. So, uh, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like other teams that he would kind of make sense on. Like, here's a question: do you guys, because you know teams when they trade a player like the Browns, they don't want to trade Miles to like the Ravens, or the Bengals. They don't want to trade him within the division. They probably don't even want to trade him in the AFC. Best case scenario, they want to trade him to the NFC. But if the Browns are smart, they'll probably just trade him to the highest bidder. Should the 49ers do the same with Debo, or are they like, we'll trade him to like, we don't want to trade him to the Rams, or we don't want to trade him to, the Eagles, or is it just like, we're not scared of you, Debo. Highest bidder, come get him.
He can't separate. Like they can put their
D Winners can cover him when we play him.
Yeah, they can put their worst cover corner on him, and I mean, like the reason he's good still or has some good plays, I think, is because of how Kyle uses him. So I think the only way that he's going to really have those opportunities if he goes to like a Kyle like system. Like I saw somebody say maybe Debo was auditioning for Mike McDaniel when they played the Dolphins, right?
Yeah.
Because that was like his best game of the season. And so maybe like a guy like McVay might make sense. He would know how to utilize him. I don't believe Debo is that much of a game breaker that like, oh man, you can't send him in conference or in the division because he's going to come back to haunt us.
Yeah.
Now, he'd be super motivated, but like, and he might have a couple really sweet plays against them. I don't know, man. I just don't feel like it's not like you're trading Justin Jefferson to a division
And
rival.
Myles Garrett. So it's just trading to the highest bidder.
Yes.
Like the Niners had no problem sending Trey Lance to the Cowboys because they knew they were never going to face Trey, and if they did, they'd probably be thrilled.
I'd love to see Debo go to the Seahawks. I feel like he would just like be frustrated as hell there.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah, or the Rams would be funny too because he's always talked a bunch of shit on the Rams, and that would be kind of an interesting fit. We know the Dolphins want to get rid of Tyreek, so do they replace Tyreek with Debo?
Oof.
Probably not, but possible.
I feel like Debo is going to go to another team, and there's going to be a lot of quotes of him talking crap about the Niners. Like, I'm already expecting it, and I'm just so over the Debo Samuel show. I just want him gone so bad at this point.
He talks crap about everybody and everything, so I think you're right. I would hope that if he does really have the relationship that he claims to have with Kyle, that he would temper that a little bit. But yeah, just knowing him, I mean, he does seem like, as much as I've loved him in the past, he does seem like he's the ultimate diva, like wide receiver diva.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to whoever does trade for him or sign him if he gets cut. Going on social media and seeing their fans like, we got Debo Samuel, and they're going to be tweeting clips of him just like breaking tackles and making these plays.
2011 or 2021.
Yeah, and then I just can't wait to go into the comments of these videos and see all the Niner fans like, yeah, you're not getting that player. That Debo is long gone.
That's right.
And they're all going to be like, I can't believe we just got him for a 6th round pick. And the Niner fans are going to be like, wow, you gave us a 6th round pick for this guy? You guys are stupid.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting dynamic on social media if and when it does happen.
Just got to hope that there's some football people that still value him like the fans do. But I don't think there are.
No. It's funny too, because I've heard the same thing that like maybe he was auditioning for Miami, which is just such a discredit to Miami, as if they watched that one game and they're like,
yeah,
he was hella good still. Like they didn't watch the other 16 games.
Yeah, right.
So Debo Samuel's worth basically nothing. What do you think Myles Garrett is worth? Because I agree with you, Steven. I want him bad, but I don't think the Niners are going to give up what's necessary to get him. I've heard people on various shows say like, "Oh, the price starts at 3 first-round picks," and I'm like, I think
No,
that's crazy. But
no,
I've heard other people say like, "Oh, it's gonna take like a first and a second, or a first and a third, or a first and a player." And then there's like on our show, like Steven, you're like, I really don't want to give up pick 11. And from the Browns' perspective, pick 11, they're probably like, we're getting better offers than that. So where's your like tipping point on like, because now he wants a trade. Earlier we were speculating like, what are you really willing to give up to get it done?
I don't believe. I feel like that actually works against the Browns as well. I could be wrong, but the fact that it's out there publicly that he wants out, now people are like, "Yeah, good luck with that, Browns." Like if we're just patient, there's gonna come a moment of, I'm gonna say desperation, probably not truly desperation, but like where they would be willing to take less. I think that people are wise. People like in the NFL are wise to, you don't spend multiple first round picks for anything other than a quarterback. Like that's the only position where you're going to see that. You might get a first, but I can't imagine that Miles Garrett is going to fetch multiple first round picks from anybody.
no, no.
And when you say you think teams are offering something better, I doubt it. I mean, I don't remember the draft order, but anything above the Niners is a top 10 pick because they're number 11. And I can't imagine there's anybody in the top 10 that is feeling like they are that close to contention that like we are willing to
Mm-hmm.
mortgage our future by giving up a top 10 pick to bring in this guy who's going to put us over the top. Now, and please tell me if I'm forgetting somebody. I don't know if you guys are looking at the draft order or not, but is there any other
No,
team that would talk themselves into being an almost immediate contender? Where are the Cowboys picking? Because I could always see them doing something like that. But
10
Cowboys
or
are
12. They're like right at, or no, they had a better record than the Niners. They're like 12 or 13. They might be 12 right after the Niners. The only other team I could think of, and I'm not saying that they are a contender or one a Miles Garrett away from it, but I could see the Bears talking themselves into being a Miles
yeah,
Garrett away from a contender. And I do agree with you. Like, if you look at the top 10, 11, 12 teams picking, there's only one team there that kind of looks like they don't quite belong based on recent years, and that's the Niners. And this happened in 2020, or 2019. They lose the Super Bowl. 2020, they have a bad year, and then they draft Kinlaw, who kind of stunk in Ayuk, but then they just take right back off to being a contender again. Miles could easily look at the Niners and say, like, look, I know they had a down year, but if they come calling, I know that team is legit and a real player in the NFC. So there's not a team in or around the top 10 that could say that. I agree with you on that.
I feel like the offer, whatever he ends up getting traded for, is going to be something that we're like, oh, the Niners should have gave up that. Like it's going to be something I think that we're going to be frustrated about. Like I'm willing to give up that for Miles Garrett, but maybe there is going to be somebody who comes up with a Godfather offer that we're not expecting. I my thinking will probably change as we go, but I would be willing for the Niners to give up 2 seconds this year and next year, and then some to get
Debo.
him. What? Yeah, Debo would be a dream. If
Debo, Jake Moody, and Brendel
yeah.
in a second round pick are yours. Take them.
But I think that the Browns will be, you know, judicious about what, I mean, not just because they want to get the highest price tag, but they've got a timeline. They know that they're getting ready to reset. Whether or not they would admit it publicly, they know it. Like Deshaun Watson is not your long term answer. I don't think that young quarterback they have is their long term answer either. I think that
Jameis?
no, yeah, no. What's isn't
Demetrius
he's got like three
Thompson
names?
Robinson from
Yeah, yeah,
UCLA.
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
DTR. Um. Anyways, like I mean, Nick Chubb, love the guy. I think he's great, but I mean, coming off that injury, like, is he really ever going to get back? And
I think he's a free agent.
he's an aging running back. Like, I mean, my point is like
Yeah.
they're identity guys. their guys that have been like their core are pretty much aging, moving on. Like I know they still have some talent on defense. It's not like
Denzel Ward.
they're not going to be garbage. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that like I think they're in for at least a couple years of a rebuild, and maybe they can accelerate it. And man, it would help accelerate if you had a couple extra second round picks, and then I don't know what you supplement that with. Maybe there is a young player that the Niners have that they're willing to part with, somebody that they can't keep. You know, maybe throw in Jordan Mason. I could see him doing well on the Browns. I know he's a restricted free agent, but maybe you sign him and then trade him. Like maybe there's a way to work that out. I don't know, but like I feel like there's you know I feel like 2 seconds is a pretty steep like asking price, and I'd be willing to pay that. I just don't know if there's other teams that are willing to pay more.
Well, I was ready to give up our 11th pick. Is that off the table? I was going to say the
No.
11th pick plus Debo, or next year's first and a third, whatever one they wanted.
Ooh, next year's first is an interesting way to look at it because
it'll be the 32nd.
we all hope it's pick number 32, right? Which is basically like, and so maybe.
Yeah, I like that. Of course, if you're the Browns, though, you've got to be thinking the same thing. Like, you got to kind of look at the Niners. Like, we know you guys are primed to bounce back. Now, maybe they don't bounce back and they get the 14th pick next year. But I think the Niners think that Robert Saleh's around for a good time, not a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the Niners are going to make a real push to jump right back into Super Bowl contention next season, not some like, hey, we're going to build back up to it. Like, no, they want to be in the Super Bowl at home next season. So the Browns know that. So they know that pick's going to be late. The question for the Browns is like, if the Niners offer us 2 seconds, but the Eagles offer pick 32, what would they rather have, I wonder?
Well, I like Chasen's offer of next year's first because then the Niners are like betting on themselves. So maybe you do this year's second, which is pretty valuable because it's,
very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe you do this year's second, next year's first, and then like a couple mid-round picks or something to try to sweeten the pot. Or if you can find a player that they're interested in. I don't know. But I don't know if that's enough.
A lot. That's a lot. I feel like that's a ton because you're giving up the first round pick, which I feel like that's where the trade offer has to start. You're giving that first round pick, and then you're giving like a good second round pick, like plus additional picks or a player, whatever. I feel like that's a great offer.
I'm willing.
I think so too.
For the Niners to do it, like with it not being my money or my team or whatever. So I'm totally willing for them to do that. But for whatever reason, and maybe this is stupid of me, I really don't want them to give up pick 11. I really want them to keep that pick.
I could see
if they can acquire Myles Garrett and keep pick 11 and draft like a sweet defensive tackle,
the best defensive tackle they can get.
Dude, it's on like Donkey Kong.
That D-line is going to be insane.
Is the next Kinlaw or Mike McGlinchey. Like, even if they draft, they kind of whiff on that pick, like it's still like huge to be able to do that. I mean, even imagine Kinlaw in the middle with Miles and Bosa. Like all of a sudden he's getting a bunch of one-on-ones. Like, I don't know. I guess if they miss on the pick, it would suck. But.
What would be really sweet, although I don't think they could pull this off, but what would be really sweet is if they do the offer we're talking about, like next year's first, this year's second, and maybe like either a player that has some promise or another pick or two, like a pretty rich offer, and you get Myles Garrett, but you don't give up pick 11. If you can find like a receiver needy team in the top 5 or 6, you do your pick swap and you convince them that Debo is still good, and maybe you do like a third or something. I don't know, but like another pick. Like, how awesome would that be to like then go up and get
Mason Graham,
or I mean, I've heard there's like.
So you're saying trade like pick 11 a second or a third in Debo to move up from 11 to 5 or something.
Exactly. If you could find somebody who would want a receiver and they think that Debo might still be a solution.
I've seen Mason Graham falling to like 7, and that would be the New York Jets. And a lot of these, because there's some players that people think are like locks, like Cam Ward at 1. People think Travis Hunter for sure is a top 3 pick. Shador is a top 3 pick, and then Abdul Carter's like the top defensive player if you're not counting Travis Hunter. So that's like already the top 4 picks that people feel like are locks. There's Will Johnson, who's supposed to be a generational cornerback talent, and then Ashton Jaunty, who's like the generational running back talent. So I see a lot of the times he's falling to like 7.
He's not going to fall to 7 with those names that you said, I don't think.
And I doubt it. I feel like he'll go like 5, probably.
I don't. If Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, and Ashton Gianti are drafted in the top 10, those players deserve what's coming.
I think that Cam Ward and probably Shador Sanders will be drafted in the top 10.
I think they will be too. I don't think they deserve it.
I think Abdul Carter is going to be the number 1 pick.
Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and then there's a couple tackles. Jason, you mentioned like the safety of the DB that's really good.
Yeah,
Johnson,
Will Johnson from Michigan.
Yeah, I think he's really good. There's a tackle from LSU that's really good. If he was there at 11, I wouldn't be mad at that pick.
Will Campbell, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you really, to your point about the good time, not a long time, if you can find a way to work that, like, because I agree that is your question is like, how can they quickly get back to contention? You do what it takes to get Myles Garrett, and you draft the best defensive tackle you can get. And if that means you have to part with some other capital to go up to get a really good one, like, man, there you go. And then try to talk DJ Jones into a homecoming discount, and now look at your D-line.
Yeah, come line up next to Miles and Bosa, DJ.
Yeah.
There's a couple defensive tackles that are projected to go in the top 15 or 20. So even if they don't get Mason Graham, there's plenty of other quality options there.
And I think
Walter Nolan.
Walter Nolan and Mike Green.
I think that's part of why I wanted to keep 11, because I think that gives them options. Like, they're going to get to have their pick. They may not have Mason Graham, but they'll have their pick between worthy defensive tackles.
Yeah.
Or offensive tackles.
I
mean, sure, it's a need, but
I think there's some good O-linemen throughout the draft based on what I've seen. I was watching a video earlier today. Larry Krueger was doing a mock draft on PFF, and Mason Graham fell to 11. So,
well, of course, Larry made that happen, right? So,
no. You don't control how it happens.
Oh, okay.
It's just like it runs a simulator. It's just like a simulation. And even he was like, "Well, I'm gonna pick Mason Graham here, but this is not going to. It's not going to happen this way." So he was making that point. But yeah, I mean, Mason Graham fell to 11. I mean, you never know what teams like, and I pray that someone is dumb enough to take Cam Ward and Shador Sanders in the top 10 and Ashton G&T, because I don't think those guys are worth those picks.
I think they will. I think the quarterbacks for sure are locked to go that high, and Ashton Jaunty, that one's more of a question mark. I don't know. If a team picks him that high, I think they're pretty insane, but I think he'll go in like the top 15.
I wonder if Ben Johnson would want his Jahmyr Gibbs at pick 10 and pick G&T.
Right here, they have the Las Vegas Raiders selecting him at number 6.
Well, I mean, yeah, they need a running back, but they need so much more. It's like you can get good running backs later.
I could see Pete going after that generational secondary talent.
He's got Marshawn in his ear, right?
I think G&T, a lot of people predict top 10, top 12 pick. He's going to be picked like 23 or something. Like, I think he's going to
see that. But then again, people went crazy for like Zeke and picked him super high, so I don't know.
Yeah, but Zeke played at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Like G&T played at Boise State. That's a big difference. And he also doesn't have like Zeke was big and explosive. And G&T's explosive, but he's not big. So I think Bijan Robinson is a better running back talent than Gianti. He went
Bijan
pick 8.
Robinson is a freaking stud. People
Yeah.
kind of sleep on him because he's in Atlanta. He's a top 5 back, in my opinion.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of another guy who's available, Devontae Adams is supposed to be getting cut. If Debo gets traded, if Ayuk's still rehabbing, is Devontae. He said he wants to play on the West Coast. He likes the Rams, the Chargers, and the Niners. And if I'm Devontae, I'm probably looking at the 2 LA teams over the Niners just because I'm going to get peppered with targets more so than San Francisco. But there's obviously questions about Stafford and whether or not he's even going to be back with the Rams. It sounds like he might get traded, which would kind of
Jeez.
surprise me, but we'll see. If I'm Devontae, though, the Chargers look nice with Herbert. I would instantly become the number one wide receiver there. That team's ascending, but he's from where's he from? Not El Segundo. Maybe he's from like Oakland area. So maybe he wants to come play for the Niners. What do you guys think about Devontae? Are you interested?
East Palo Alto, California.
Palo Alto, yeah.
He's 32 years of age. I'd be interested. Yeah. Sign me up. I don't know how it would work logistically. We got too many mouths to feed as is, but I mean, if the contract stuff, if it fits, yeah, sign me up. I still think he has some good football left in him. I think he's a stud. 32 years old, so that's not super old by any means as a wide receiver, but he's definitely not in his prime anymore. But I still think he's got some juice. I would sign up for it.
Yeah, I still think he's got good ball in front of him too. At least one more good season. And I think we talked about this with T. Higgins when I kind of played devil's advocate about like, Debo is looking more likely like he's going to be cut or traded now. Ayuk is just a big question mark. He can be ready by week 1. He might not be ready till Christmas. And then you have Jawan Jennings, who's good but only has 1 year left on his deal. Although I presume Devontae would probably only get a 1 year deal. And then Pearsall looked nice toward the end, but he's unproven. And after that, like your best targets after that are McCaffrey and George. So they're gonna need some wide receiver help, even if Ayuk is healthy and on track for week 1 or week 4 somewhere early. They're gonna need some wide receiver help. So it makes more sense the more I think about it. I just don't know if that's what he's gonna want. If he's gonna want to still be a guy who gets 150 targets, or if he's just gonna be a guy like, hey, I'll take 4 to 5 targets a game. I just want to win.
I saw something the other day. I can't remember if this was like a reporter or if it was just like a fan comment. I really can't remember, but saying like that the Niners receiver room is in worse shape than people realize, and they need all this help.
Yeah,
It is.
I wouldn't disagree. Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, I think a lot hinges on Ayuk, like you said, Ryan. We don't know what he's gonna be like, but I guess I'm still hoping for more from Pearsall and even Cowing, and like I think Jawan is the man, and he's gonna be around for 1 more year. Like I'm not so worried about next year. Maybe it's for the future that they're talking about,
It's
but
for the future because like Jawan is sweet. I love Jawan, but he's only got 1 year left on his deal. And Cowing has potential, but he's shown nothing. And Pearsall, at best, is probably like a nice number 2.
yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. They made it to the Super Bowl with Emmanuel Sanders, aging Emmanuel Sanders as their number 1. So I feel like, is there really that much concern? I mean, yes, you want to have a stud wide receiver. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like they've got enough to get by, and still be a Super Bowl contender.
You're saying the solution is pound the friggin' rock.
I'm saying
It
yes,
is.
and yes, and don't forget about 85, who can function like a wide receiver out there and make big plays for you, and use your offensive wizard to scheme guys open, which he's proven to be able to do. But anyways, yeah, I don't think it's as dire as it could be, right? Like I mean, a lot of it hinges on if Ayuk isn't ready, and I hate to even say it, but let's say Jawan gets hurt. Yeah, then all of a
Oh
sudden
man.
you want a reliable veteran, and Devontae makes sense. But man, I just feel like there's got to be younger, cheaper, higher upside options than Devontae Adams.
I'm going into this season assuming Ayuk isn't going to be ready. That's just my hunch based on how severe his knee injury was. So I'm going into it thinking Debo's not on the team anymore and Ayuk's not ready to play. And I see Juwan and Ricky Pearsall. And that would sound a lot better if it was a Devontae Adams, a Ricky Pearsall, and a Juwan Jennings. And I'd be like, okay, we got like a top 10 receiving core right there, maybe. But going into it with just like Jawan, Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, of course, they could draft a guy. But like, I think it's a low key, sneaky need.
I agree.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, the wide receiver class in this draft is weak. Like,
Yeah.
there's one guy from Arizona, or Arizona, I think it's Arizona. He's projected to be like a top 10 or 12 pick. Outside that, like, there's some good wide receivers in college football, but they're not coming out this year. This draft class is supposed to be really weak, and the free agency class is not much better. So,
The fact that the Niners keep getting linked to receivers, I feel like that tells me that they're sniffing around for receivers. So maybe it's
yeah.
not a T. Higgins or a Devontae Adams, but I feel like there's some interest out there to get somebody.
I want to see a guy who I'm kind of interested in, and this is not certainly not a Devontae Adams type player, but Darius Slayton from the Giants. I feel like he's a
Hmm.
little bit of an underrated player because he's been on the crappy Giants for so long. He's like 26 or something. He's still young. He's a veteran, and I think he could be a nice little depth piece for the Niners. But there's guys like Tutu Atwell and Rondale Moore and, kind of speed guys. Just draw a blank
Tyreek
on it.
Hill.
No, well, he's not a free agent. I was going to say Tyler Lockett, but he's old. Hollywood Brown. Um,
Mm.
yeah, he might be a little more expensive, and I don't know if he's worth it. He just hasn't produced. But
Honestly, Slayton is the one that gets me the most excited of all the names you said.
yeah, I think Slayton would be a nice little signing because he'll probably be cheap, and I think he's a decent player. I think they could use him. So I agree with Chase in that I think they're sniffing around for wide receivers.
What about Cooper Kupp?
Yeah. I doubt the Rams would send him to us.
Yeah, how about Debo for Cooper Kupp straight up?
Straight up.
Can you imagine?
That'd be the
That would be
dumbest
the
trade of all time.
most insane thing.
Why is Cooper Kupp all of a sudden so expendable for the Rams? Is it cap reasons? Is it something else going on?
I think he got like washed overnight. Like
Okay.
I think it came quick. Because when I watch Rams games and when I hear people talk about how he's playing, he's just not getting open, which was his thing. And he's getting hurt a lot. And the Rams are just like staff. Remember his Triple Crown year? It was like 10 to 15 catches a game, and Stafford just force fed him the ball, and you couldn't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like he's like Debo. He just cannot get open. He's struggling to stay healthy, and Stafford's just feeding Puka Nakua
Well,
and Puka Nakua.
and then the Rams. I mean, I'm also hearing stuff about trouble in paradise with Stafford.
I know.
It's weird.
Yeah, it seems like
I feel like I've heard that for a couple years now. It's like an every offseason thing, especially when they make a playoff run.
yeah. I don't know. It's like Jason said. It's weird to me. Like I watched the Rams twice, and I felt like Stafford's the best thing you got going. Like you wouldn't even be in this if it wasn't for that. Hold on a second.
Yeah, and like, so is Sean McVay's going to trade him and then for like what? Like a top 10 pick, and then you're going to draft Shador or something? Like, I don't know what the plan is for the Rams if you trade Stafford and sign Darnold, trade Stafford and just be crappy for a year and take a quarterback the next year and then go through rookie struggles, and then at best he's good in his second year, and now you've had 2 bad years. Like I don't know why the Rams would trade Stafford. I get why they would want to draft a young quarterback to start preparing for that, but wouldn't you want to get that quarterback now and put him behind Stafford and not trade Stafford?
Apparently, there's rumors of Stafford to Minnesota. I don't know if there's any truth behind them, but
I also saw something about Aaron Rodgers going to Minnesota. So, there's all kinds
yeah,
of rumors.
everyone's going to Minnesota.
Right.
Niners hired Gus Bradley as an assistant. I think it's a good hire, and I think I think the Kyle and the Niners kind of view him as the defensive coordinator in waiting, and a guy who's not going to get another head coaching job.
Yeah.
So he could be the continuity, and he could be around for a while. I don't know if he's going to be the next Steve Spagnuolo, but he knows the system, and I think he's not going anywhere. So that's I think it's a good hire.
Well, it's just cool to get guys in there that have done it at a higher level.
Yeah, can operate autonomously.
Right.
Is that a bird?
Yeah. That's why I've been
Is it
going
a chicken or something?
It's why I've been going on mute every now and then. Yeah.
Got a
That's
chicken
funny.
back there. I am so unbelievably stoked for our coaching staff heading into this next season. I feel like it's elite.
So much better than last year.
Yes, and we're the year before that. It is looking elite, and now we just need to replenish with some talent, and let's kick some ace in this
Did you
next
see
season.
Steve Wilkes got a job?
Where?
Jets D coordinator.
Oh God, the
I'm
most
happy he got a job. I feel
dysfunctional.
like-
I'm happy for him too. It's just one of the most dysfunctional franchises in the league. It's like, man, that's
Yeah.
not going to go well.
I think he got scapegoated a little bit by the Niners.
You think so?
I think a lot
thought
of
he was.
Niner fans agree with that too.
I thought he was horrible.
See, I don't think he was as bad as it kind of
Really?
made out to be.
I don't think he was good either. I feel like, the
No.
narrative is almost shifted on him. Like, I don't think he was as bad as it seemed. I also don't think he was that good.
Do you think they fire him if they win the Super Bowl?
Probably not.
Wouldn't that be crazy to win the Super Bowl and then fire your defensive coordinator?
Yeah, probably not. Just because it's like, oh, you did what you set out to do, so why wouldn't you just run it back? But
it also feels like he lost the defensive locker room. Like Bosa and Warner, Bosa will speak freely and just kind of say whatever's on his mind, which is why I love his interviews. Fred is much more like he's got future coach written all over him. He can
Right.
talk for 10 minutes and say nothing.
mm-hmm.
But even Fred was like there was a clear disconnect. It felt like he kind of lost the defensive locker room.
Yeah.
see that.
I wouldn't be surprised if he still would have gotten fired.
I'm so stoked for this coaching staff. I would be very happy if he was the defensive coordinator in waiting. I want Saleh around as long as possible, but that's just not realistic. But that's going to net us some more picks again when Saleh gets inevitably hired as a head coach. That's kind of cool. Yeah, this coaching staff, I haven't been this excited about our coaching staff in a while, probably since we had like D'Amico and Saleh. It's going to be awesome. Like what Steven said, I'm so happy to have multiple coaches that have been head coaches and can operate autonomously. And hopefully that allows Kyle can focus better. I don't even know what you would call that, but like just not have to worry as much about the defensive side of the ball. You got two guys that have done it a long time at a high level, that have been head coaches. Just let them handle it, Kyle. You scheme up your plays, get your quarterback right, and produce a lot of yards and touchdowns.
Yeah, I've heard that Robert Saleh is, quote, adamant that he wants Dre Greenlaw back. So it already
Love to
sounds
hear
like
it.
Robert Saleh's got some more weight in the room and he's not afraid to throw it around.
Love to hear that.
I hope that works out. I hope that they get him back, and I hope he can stay healthy. But those
Dre
are
Greenlaw, Mason Graham,
big ifs.
Myles Garrett,
I mean, can
some
you imagine
cornerback.
that?
No, I mean, they would go from like the 25th ranked defense or whatever to like top 5.
Top
better
5,
overnight.
yeah, maybe
Because
top
we already
3.
know they have good young secondary players. They still need another corner and another safety. but they've got two starting corners and a starting safety like locked and loaded for next season already.
If you can pull off getting Myles Garrett, like that opens up so many doors for you to get, I feel like, bargains from vets because it's like, oh my gosh, heck yeah, I want to go play on a defense that has Bosa and Myles Garrett on either side of the line, and
especially if you're a secondary player,
right? And Fred Warner patrolling the middle of the field. Like my job's going to be easy.
Yeah, like if I'm DJ Reed, the Niners look pretty appetizing.
Or like any safety that is just decent, like doesn't even have to be a star. Like I feel like
The veteran ball hawk. That's what we need back there.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody very instinctual.
Jimmy Ward.
Yeah, but I don't.
Well, not a ball hawk, but veteran.
I don't think Jimmy's coming back. But yeah, someone like Jimmy Ward, who's a good player, done it for a long time, or maybe not even a long time, just done it enough to prove themselves, but maybe isn't like a household name.
Yeah, this defense could be ferocious, and they probably won't land Mason Graham at 11. But there are other defensive tackles that you can pair along with.
They probably won't get Myles Garrett either, which
I know
is just
fantasizing over here.
Yeah,
I've got a name to give you, a free agent safety who's I think is low key pretty dang good. Quandre Diggs of the Seattle Seahawks is a free agent. He's pretty dang good. I'll have to look that up.
I would think that he's going to be in demand.
32.
Ooh, 32.
He's 32?
Yep, 32.
Whoa, I didn't even know he was in his 30s.
You sign him to a 1-year deal and say, come get the ring, because I don't know about 32 for my safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might as well just bring back Tayshaun Gibson. Is he he's not the dude with one hand. Who's the guy with one hand?
He's not in the league anymore, and I've forgotten his name. And he had a twin brother that was also on the Seahawks. I don't think he's in the league anymore either.
Yeah, he probably helps have two hands. All right, well, I think that's about all I got.
Shaquem Griffin.
Yeah, Griffin. And Shaquille, right? Shaquem and Shaquille were the guys?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I think we've hit what we need to hit. Man, how do we speak into existence getting Myles Garrett on the Niners?
You know what's funny about Myles Garrett is I feel like there's going to be like the NFC West is a great landing spot for him. I could see obviously the Niners will be interested. I could see the Rams being very interested. Unfortunately, I could see the Seahawks.
Stafford.
Well,
but if they keep Stafford, yeah, definitely.
And I could see the Seahawks being interested as well.
Don't do that, Myles Garrett. Don't make me hate you.
Do you really think that Myles Garrett's going to look across the league and say he's already declared, I want to win a ring? Like that's my priority. Do you really think looking at that he's going to say
Geno Smith is the guy that's going to get it done for me?
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, no, he's got to find some like serious Super Bowl contender, and he's probably going to stay away from the AFC West unless he's a Chief. Bills, the Ravens.
Can you imagine Myles Garrett and Chris Jones on the same D line like that?
Niners would stand no chance with their little Jake Brendels and their Spencer Burfords.
Oh man. Yeah.
All right.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, we'll call it there.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
See you later.
Talk to you later. Peace.